Guys, I have a confession to make. I was actually really nervous to make this video. No, I wasn't worried that I'd be saying goodbye to this weird alt-right cartoon, which turned me from a Z-list YouTuber to a Y-list one. I was worried because I don't bullshit you guys. If the finale of Mr. Birchum was just meh, like fine, like justifiable, I'd have to sit here in this suit like an asshole and say, huh, golly gee, isn't this show stupid? But don't worry guys, all my fears of that happening washed away, just like my will to live whenever I watch Mr. Birchum. Because this finale, by far out of the 6 episodes that I've seen, is the worst, and frankly, it's not close. And I am so happy to get to tear it apart, because it embodies every single thing that the show to date has done wrong. It's about as creatively inspired as going to the park and taking your iPhone and filming a video of a dog taking a dump, and to give credit to the dog, what it's producing has infinitely more value than Mr. Birchum. It has learned nothing from the fact that it is supposed to be a comedy show. It's supposed to be a cartoon. It's supposed to be funny. It's not supposed to be a platform for you to lecture about how you want the world around you to be conservative. The writers don't know or don't care that they're supposed to be writing a sitcom, not a Trump speech. Although, to give Trump some credit, at least when he makes pop culture references, they're actually funny.
No, these are real stories. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lamb. He's a lovely man. He wants to have you for dinner. He'd like to have you for dinner.
Why does the president keep talking about the late great Hannibal Lecter? Why does he seem to keep talking about him as if he was a real person? Does Trump know that he is a fictitious character? I don't know, and he doesn't care. A finale is kind of like a test at the end of the year. It's supposed to be a culmination of everything we've learned, demonstrating mastery over the material. Mr. Birchum is a little bit like if you went into that exam room, stood on your desk, and yelled loudly to the room, "I have learned nothing this year. In fact, I have gotten even more stupid. In fact, I'm actually proud of that." So, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat. I am putting that tagline in because I do not want you to keep referring to me as the Birchum guy. Birchum is done after this. Please subscribe, by the way, because I will keep making videos 1 to 2 every week. The main plot of this episode, which is absolutely thrilling, by the way, and very creative, I'm being sarcastic, by the way, is that the climbing rope in the gym has been taken down by liberal arch-villain Mr. Karponzi. And Mr. Birchum and Gage, his friend, think that that rope coming down is woke, and it's why the kids are fat.
Since when can you not fat shame? When we were kids, there was one fat kid in the class. Now they're all fat.
Mr. Birchum has very fond memories of climbing that rope and being verbally abused by his gym teacher on account of his weight.
What are you laughing at, B-Cup Bertram? You're next. I'm gonna make you work harder than the elastic waistband of your Toughskins.
By the way, have you ever noticed that people who are like really mean to kids are just in absolutely no position to be throwing stones? Like, buddy, you are so fat yourself, you cannot be calling these students fat. Anyway, Birchum is so obsessed about this rope because it's kind of a metaphor for the entire show and the entire generation. Like, climbing that rope builds physical fitness and moral character.
Okay, boomer, yeah, boomer. Whatever you say, boomer.
And if you've never had a climbing rope in your gym growing up, I guess this is just not for you. I guess the writers don't care. But to be honest with you, the show never actually talks about why the climbing rope is the solution to these problems, these perceived problems about the next generation. And by the way, humanity has been complaining about how the next generation is worse off for literally thousands of years. You are not unique. And getting back to the climbing rope is not going to fix anything. Because if you are a fat child who eats mac and cheese for every meal, not that I have any experience with that, you're going to try to climb the rope, and you're going to, like, kind of go up there, but you're not really going to know how, and you're not really going to have the upper body strength to do it, so you're just going to go up there, struggle for 30 seconds, until the underpaid gym teacher says, "Alright, kid, that's enough, you can go. You can go on the scooters." You don't magically become a better person, a more well-rounded person, or even a more physically fit person just because you're trying unsuccessfully to climb a rope. I say all this. The reality is that a climbing rope is probably not going to be the panacea to fix all of the generation's problems, because the show never talks about any of the practical logistics of climbing a rope. The show is just assuming, as it always does, that we, the audience, view our conservative hero's journey as 100% justified. This is despite the fact that Birchum's own anger at the gym rope being taken down makes absolutely no sense. Because what real motivation does Mr. Birchum actually have to want the rope back? Because he was abused by a gym coach, even going so far as to have a nightmare featuring the gym coach, which also features the only one funny joke in the entire episode, where the gym teacher is trying to climb the rope and fails, going right to hell. But instead of realizing that what he experienced wasn't good and that the rope climb really doesn't benefit students, he makes a secret plan with Gage to break into the school and put up a new rope. Kind of like the end of the movie Whiplash, where the main character ultimately still looks to the teacher for approval in the last frame of the movie, even though the teacher's been mistreating him for 90 whole minutes.
I've carried your fat for too long, Mets. I'm not going to have you cost us a competition because your mind's on a Happy Meal instead of on pitch.
Maybe this incredibly weak plot would actually work in a live-action show featuring a dorky but do-good white guy whose family resents him a little bit but ultimately loves him. Maybe in that show, this plot, with a very weak foundation, could work. But no. It doesn't work in Mr. Birchum, because in Mr. Birchum, our main character is a conservative super soldier. He's like Captain America frozen in time, except Mr. Birchum actually has the realistic views on race that Captain America would have after being frozen in 1945 and waking up in 2010. You're telling me that Steve Rogers sees that we have elected President Obama and he doesn't completely freak the... Anyways, Mr. Birchum is portrayed as a flawless character who can really do no wrong except for his over-reliance on alcohol. Although just like the show Mom Manor, which I am censoring because YouTube really does not like that word and did not show that video to a lot of people, as a result, click there if you want to watch it. Fascinating video in my opinion. But just like in that show, it is portrayed more as a joke rather than like, a serious problem. Half of the entire episode is spent on Mr. Birchum talking about, oh, I remember climbing the rope, and now kids can't climb the rope anymore because of the woke, and I was abused, so it's fine, and now I'm gonna break into the school Mission Impossible style, and all of this is played completely straight. Like, we're honestly supposed to look at these Mission Impossible-like scenes and think that they're cool. We're supposed to be sitting in our chairs, drinking our beer, hating our wives, watching this man pretend to be a secret action hero, and thinking he's totally justified in all of his actions to put a rope up into the school. So if you're underwhelmed like I was about the plot of this season, potentially series finale, would it help you if I told you the B plot was that Eddie is using a VR headset and Mr. Birchum doesn't understand it? No? Okay, that's what I thought. But despite this show being rather light in the fun, interesting plot department, it is heavy in the political talking points / lecturing in a comedy show. And I know the joke writing in the show can kind of be broken into two categories. The first one being made up thing liberals believe equals humor. The second one being real thing conservatives believe and are right for doing so equals humor. But in this episode, we really get a nice third joke type. The show doubles down as we get our third joke, bigotry equals comedy. And we've had that throughout the series, to be honest with you, but in this episode it is so present. This episode, more than any other, sacrifices comedy for the sake of ideology.
We should just get rid of the gym entirely and replace it with a Mandarin class. Because when we get in a war with China, these kids will need to know how to surrender in Chinese.
You can tell that so many of the jokes in this episode just come from a writer reading a Wikipedia page on what it means to be transgender, not understanding it, but still finding some way to dislike it anyway.
Saying a black person can't be a white supremacist is like saying a woman can't have a penis.
I don't really have anything else to add here other than it is pathetically unfunny, and I say that as a gay person, as a comedian, as a gay comedian, but also as somebody who just values my time and values treating other people decently, and also as someone who values laughing, because this episode features a new fourth type of joke, which is unfunny thing equals humor.
Get some evidence or get lost.
Drink.
Anyways, lots of words, lots of minutes, hundreds of hours of animators going into making an episode where basically nothing happens in the first half besides putting a rope up in the gym. And in the world of the very uninteresting and completely convenient, the janitor bumps into the rope, where it forms a noose. This understandably unnerves Karponzi, who just told Birchum that we cannot have a rope in the gym. The next day, comes into school, finding the rope tied into a noose. Karponzi then goes to the principal and gets Birchum suspended for 3 days pursuant to a hearing. And let's be honest, even though Mr. Birchum didn't do the noose, if there were ever a shop teacher in all my years that I would expect to use the iconography of the Jim Crow South to make a point, it would be him. It would be him. And you didn't mishear me when I said we're doing a hearing. Bad pun. Because we are reusing the same exact plot line from episode 1. Yet we are on episode 6, couldn't make it 6 episodes without reusing a plot. Jesus Christ, man. You've been trying to get this show made for like 15 years, and this is the best you have? Seriously? We're reusing plots 6 episodes in. 4 episodes in, we're doing a flashback episode. And 3 episodes in, we're referencing multiple full scenes from other existing works of better pop culture. But what really annoys me the most is that this hearing is portrayed by the show as, this is it. Mr. Birchum is in real danger. This is the hearing that is gonna get him fired. The only thing that Karponzi can present as evidence that they have done it is they have a security camera footage of 2 people. You cannot tell that they are Gage and Birchum. That is it. This is a bit of a contrast to the hearing in the pilot, where, if you'll remember, there is filmed, unfalsifiable video evidence of Mr. Birchum bringing students to his home on a Saturday morning against, I can't even imagine how many rules. Also, student testimony that Mr. Birchum would bully and belittle his students, as well as the fact that he was generally so obstinate in that hearing as to bring his dog as a witness. But somehow he was able to keep his job with a rousing speech, and now this show wants to look me in the face and tell me that I'm f***ing stupid. Because every character is like, this is probably it for you, Birchum, including Principal Bortles, who, if you'll remember, in episode 2, was literally fine with him skipping class to get blackout drunk on Veterans Day. Remember when you threatened to fail your class unless they did unpaid construction work with you, and remember when you abandoned your class to go get a beer? Yeah, this rope thing that we have no evidence of you doing, that's probably going to be it for you. We come to find out that the entire case rests on Karponzi trying to get Gage to rat out Birchum as an eyewitness, which is crazy because this show actually wants to look me in the eyes again and tell me, hey, you know Birchum's friend of 40 years? Yeah, he's gonna betray him. Yeah, for this character that they both dislike. Yeah, that's gonna happen. That could happen. Keep watching, Patrick. Keep watching. Keep watching. My brain is broken, so it's really not that hard for me to keep watching at this point. I don't need any reminders, but the show keeps telling me keep watching. Okay, almost done. After being laid off, Mr. Birchum drinks 50 beers, which, for a guy like me, is just an average weekend. Can't say that joke with a straight face. I personally don't care for beer. It makes me pee too much. If you're my health insurance company and you're watching this, for legal reasons, all of that was a joke, except for the peeing thing. That is unfortunately real. My bladder is weak. This show does have the funniest use of its women characters by far in this episode, because they basically don't do anything. Like, Wendy in this episode only exists to say, hey, champ, I know you're probably about to get fired, but can you please just change your clothes?
Even if you don't go to the tribunal, at least get out of that bathrobe.
I'm glad that through its use of women characters in this episode, that Mr. Birchum is finally saying what it truly believes, that women should be seen and not heard. Meanwhile, Eddie is in a VR gaming competition, which I mentioned briefly earlier, where apparently he has to eat pretend steak for $750,000 until Birchum bumps into him, and then apparently that costs him first place, so now he has to settle for third and only gets $15,000. Don't ask me if this makes sense, because it doesn't. I don't even think these writers have ever even touched a VR headset. Like, they haven't even been offered by, like, a younger niece or nephew, like, hey, try this on and play Beat Saber. And then they're playing for, like, 15 minutes, like, wow, this is tiring, this is so neat, I feel like I'm right there. I don't even think they've done that. Like, I think they literally have no idea how virtual reality works, or how... Okay. I need to stop thinking about this and move on. I do like how after Mr. Birchum bumps into him, that Eddie finally just goes off on him for being a loser and not making any money.
And what did you make today, other than a dent in the couch?
And, you know, that honestly, I think they might have stolen that from some of the fan fictions that I've read, including the one by one of my channel subscribers. But being called out by his loser son reinvigorates him, and he goes into the hearing determined to fight for his job. Karponzi firing on all cylinders with his foolproof case to get Mr. Birchum fired. We learn that he has no direct evidence tying Mr. Birchum to this. Well, you know, from his perspective, it is a crime. He did just walk into the gym and see there was a noose. But his entire case rests on calling Gage to the witness stand and then assuming that Gage will testify on Birchum. This is his only piece of evidence, and of course, it doesn't work, as the two men basically take turns trying to I am Spartacus each other and taking credit for the rope, trying to save the other one from any potential liability or punishment.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
A fun fact about that famous scene, I Am Spartacus, didn't really happen in real life, and in real life, all those people were captured, crucified, and put across Rome's largest highway. And as much as I would love if Mr. Birchum was crucified and joined those defeated warriors, what do you think happens? Do you think he really gets fired? Really? Come on.
Someone needs to stop the progress of the progressives. What kind of progress is it to enable fat kids to stay fat and to teach minority kids to act like victims when they're not?
Of course, Mr. Birchum delivers a big, grandiose speech about wokeness and lefties and America and gets to keep his job, and then Mr. Karponzi is fired, and then everybody claps, and Albert Einstein gives a thumbs up. Oh my god. Except, no. All of what I said is true, but after that, this show does what I like to call a second season hedge. Because this show doesn't really know if it's going to get a season 2 or not, so it kind of finishes the story in a way that could be seen as satisfying, but also immediately could feed into a potential season 2.
What are you doing? I'm no longer a they. My new pronouns are I'm dying.
Even though we see Mr. Karponzi lose his title as a Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion officer, and his robe gets taken away from him, you know, naturally I think most people would assume he gets fired. We learn in the last 30 seconds of the episode he actually apparently still works for the school. Birchum also does get to keep his job, but at the end of the episode we see that the wood shop is destroyed. So he's just kind of chilling in his couch, prepping his next move, but he did win and he still has his friendship with Gage. It's all wraps up kind of neatly, but also immediately provides a nice jumping off point if they did make another season.
You're the man, Birchum.
And with one more epic rant, Birchum, that concludes the first, perhaps only, season of Mr. Birchum. Will there be another season? Well, if we're just going on the merits, absolutely not. Every episode was dreadful, absolutely horrible, painful to watch. Truly agonizing. But this is not a normal show. This is a show that premiered on the Daily Wire Plus, the conservative streaming site. It is a streaming service so putrid that Mr. Birchum perhaps represents the shiniest piece of garbage in the entire dump, with the exception of Matt Walsh's designed to be provocative movies. And he's actually coming out with a new one. Am I, that word, not going to say that word because YouTube's been being mean to me recently, but I will be watching and seeing that movie in theaters for this channel. So stay tuned for that. But really, I can't imagine that the Daily Wire Plus is making all that much money. And Mr. Birchum is really the only thing they've had that's entered the mainstream. Now, from the perspective of the creators, it's probably gone viral for all the wrong reasons, like people writing a lot of gay fan fiction about it, or saying it's one of the worst adult animated cartoons ever made, but hey, you know, all news is good news. I feel obligated to give a summary and kind of say how I feel about the show in general. Going back to my first original video about conservative comedy, there are, after all, a lot of conservative comedians who generally are pretty funny. Often that humor can be seen as coming from the expense of other people, but you can get away with a lot if it's actually funny. A lot has been said about my comment in that video of comedy's basic rule. It's good to punch up, not punch down. People have been calling me, you know, don't know what comedy is, liberal, brain dead, etc., etc. But if you actually pay attention to what I said in that video, I only said you'd get better results if you followed that rule, which is true. But again, humor lets you get away with a lot and bend the rules if you're actually trying to make people laugh. And Mr. Birchum is getting away with absolutely nothing. It's about as funny as somebody going up to an open mic thinking they're killing, when in reality the only thing they're doing is saying conservative talking points in a monotone voice. It's not funny at all. And by the way, on the subject of that monotone voice, the audio in this show is terrible, and I haven't pointed it out, and I feel like if I don't point it out now, I'll never get the opportunity. So very quickly, on multiple different occasions, you can hear the same audio line broken up into chunks, and there's no effort to make it sound any less bad. Like,
don't bother to lift your finger, drag it all the way over to the zero. It's 100% more work. And really, what's the difference between 30 seconds and 33 seconds?
It's just so clearly chunky, especially if you listen with headphones. Just had to get that out of the way. It has been burning, and I've never found time to put it in a video, so there it is. But yes, if you're not funny, you're not going to get away with anything, and Mr. Birchum isn't funny, because Mr. Birchum's idea of a joke is saying, isn't the Green New Deal so wacky? That's not funny. This is not a conservative joke, this is a conservative talking point. So I guess my original title of calling Mr. Birchum a conservative comedy isn't really accurate either. It is 26 minutes of pure delusion, of an anti-woke cartoon that is trying and failing so hard to be funny, and maybe not even trying that hard, that the resulting product cannot even be considered to be a comedy. But what has been funny has been mocking it here on this channel with you all. And it's been an absolute joy to mock this show, I won't lie. And if laughing at some of the biggest morons on the internet, on horrible TV shows, and other stupid movies sounds like fun to you, consider subscribing. Because while Mr. Birchum is going away, I am still here in this room, in my apartment, that I dislike, that has people who are very loud above me, and I am sweating right now through this jacket. And more subscribers means I can focus more on the channel, give more time and energy to it. It's been really nice seeing the support that this series and some of my other videos have gotten, allowed me to prioritize it more in my life, because it's hectic, obviously, trying to do other things and also do this. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed. What are your overall thoughts on Mr. Birchum? Was it a failure? Was it a success? I can't say that was a straight face either. Like, comment, let me know your thoughts. And as always, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and I'll see you for the next one.